I'll be describing a pinwheel experiment that occurred on November the 10th, 2022. So during this experiment, the Alice container was completely closed. That's been the way it's been last few weeks. There's been no movement inside this container. Center pinwheel is lefty. One on the right is smiley. So last week there were only 3 activations, only by lefty and smiley. There were no activations on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 2 activations on lefty on Tuesday. First one was early in the morning, right before the lunar eclipse. The second one was late in the evening on Tuesday. Then no activations on Wednesday and no activations previous to this experiment. So here's the setting up of the camera. You'll notice that the pinwheels are agitated. So movement by lefty. Indoor temperature is 79, outdoor temperature is 64. And smiley is agitated also, and then that, as is normal, as soon as this activation ends of the camera, there's no more. The pinwheels are still. So here's the camera set up. That triggered the Alice camera. Alice doesn't turn at all, but just my presence in the room must have caught some motion there, and that activated the camera. Alice is a very sensitive camera, so even the slightest activation should activate that camera. Here's the first activation of the evening. We've been talking about various things which in the past should activate the pinwheels, but they did not activate until 8:05. For some reason the audio failed during this activation. It may not be the case. There was a time period where we were quiet, but I think I was watching the pinwheels and they were not moving during that time period. I'm not quite sure why there's no audio in that occasion. Here's the second activation, which is right afterwards, and we do have audio, and here's what it looks like.
Whoa, something happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lights turned on. It activated it. Yeah. And I just plugged my earphones back in and put my hearing in.
See, we found in the past sometimes when I put my hearing aid in, it creates a feedback, a strange chirping sound. That sometimes causes the pinwheels to turn, and sometimes it doesn't. It's not a consistent phenomena. But in this case, it did seem that that first activation was synonymous with me putting my hearing aid in, and it seemed like we were getting a chirping sound, but I don't know why the audio did not function properly on that occasion. We only had 2 activations. In the latter part of the session, we tried to stimulate activity. Here's a typo I haven't gotten out properly, but Boris felt like there's a predator. His poltergeist was acting like a predator and watching him and waiting to attack. Then the latter part of the session, Heather described a visionary experience, and I described former participant Steve's near-death experience. And our attempts to stimulate the pinwheels weren't really very successful, maybe a slight success at one stage. Here's the removal of the camera. The camera seemed to be functioning. Taking the camera out caused the pinwheels to become agitated, and as usual they stopped turning as soon as I'm out of the room, and it just calmed down immediately. But the camera seemed to be functioning properly, and so as a summary, we experienced a kind of flatness. There were 2 camera activations, both by lefty, and our attempts to stimulate the camera activations weren't very successful.